What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here to break down the NFL Week 12. I can't believe we're already in Week 12. We're going to get into this whole slate, going to get into all the players I like, all the quarterbacks I like, every single position. We're going to go through all of that. But before I do, if you're new here, make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, turn notification bell. It takes like 10 seconds of your time, and it's free to use, so be sure to go ahead and hit those buttons. And then if you want to get more of my content, you can always subscribe to my Patreon. It's only $10 a month, and you're going to get a ton of articles, a ton of injury notes. You're going to know what to do every Sunday morning before the slate starts. So be sure to check that out in the link below as well. If you want to follow me on social media, those are down there as well. So let's get into the players where we're going to start quarterbacks. And I'm going to focus on 3 games this week from a GPP standpoint. And for quarterbacks, if you want to go cash, there's one other quarterback I didn't put on here. That's Daniel Jones. I'll just go ahead and say that. He's cheap. He's in a good matchup. I think he's a good cash quarterback, but I'm going to be talking more about tournament plays here, and these are going to be the 6 quarterbacks I'm interested in. We have 3 games that have really high totals that I'm going to really just be looking to stack. So you have the Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, which is at 55.5. Then you have the Buffalo Bills and LA Chargers game, which is at 53, and then the Atlanta and Las Vegas Raiders game, which is at 54. And we're going to start with those two. Matt Ryan going against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders have allowed the 9th most points to opposing quarterbacks this year. Now, Matt Ryan really does depend on one big factor here this week, and that is Julio Jones. When Julio Jones has not been active, we have seen Matt Ryan have literally his worst games of the year. Last week, Julio Jones got hurt during the game and pretty much didn't play the rest of it. So when he's out, I don't really like Matt Ryan as much, but assuming him and Ridley both play, I think Matt Ryan is a very good stack candidate. They're probably going to be playing from behind for the most part in this game. And I just always love getting Atlanta sacks because that offense is just so explosive. And then Gurley might miss as well, so that could make the offense have more passing anyway. So I do think Matt Ryan is a good play. And on the other side, Atlanta's just given up so much points through the air this year. They've allowed the most points to opposing quarterbacks so far this year. And I don't see why that would make change this week. Derek Carr has some pretty good options. Nelson Aguilar, Darren Waller, Henry Ruggs, Hunter Renfrow as well. Pass the ball too. So he's really cheap, only like $5,300. I think he's a good cash option. I think he's a good tournament option. Nice cheap stack to get there. Next game I'll talk about is the Bills and Chargers. It's a 53 game total. You have Josh Allen going against the Chargers, who have allowed the 8th most points to opposing quarterbacks so far this year. He is just in a very good spot. John Brown is out, so we've seen, like Matt Ryan without Julio, Josh Allen hasn't been as good without John Brown on the field this year, but I'm not really too worried about it because the Chargers defense just really isn't good. This should be a high-scoring game, so I do think Josh Allen is in a good spot. Love his stacks, and you can make a cheap stack this week too. If Gabriel Davis is definitely in play now that John Brown is out, and he adds into that stack really well. Cole Beasley, obviously Stephon Diggs are all in play for that. Then the other side of that one, you have Justin Herbert going against Buffalo, who's allowed the 5th most points to opposing quarterbacks so far this year. Chris Harris Jr. might return this week, so that could. I'm sorry, that's the wrong game. Jeez. Okay, never mind. Justin Herbert is in a really good spot. The Buffalo Bills have allowed a ton of points to opposing wide receivers. All of his receivers match up well. Keenan Allen is probably in the best spot. Like, the Bills give up a ton of points to slot receivers this year. So Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen stacks look good. Mike Williams is probably going to get a lot of Tre'Davious White, but I'm really not too worried about it. Tre'Davious White hasn't been elite this year like we saw last year, and he's like smaller. Like, Mike Williams is one of the biggest wide receivers in the league, so that's a big mismatch in size. So Justin Herbert stacks look very, very good. And then the last game is going to be a 55.5 total game with Mahomes and Brady. Patrick Mahomes, these two defenses grade out well. Look, the Bucs have allowed the 28th most points opposing quarterbacks. Kansas City allowed 24th most. But we've seen in the past few weeks, Bucs defense has not looked good. It just got torched by Jared Goff on Monday Night Football last week. So their defense just has not been as great. And I'm just never going to fade. I don't care who the defense is. If the game's 55.5 game total, I'm playing it anyway. But you get Patrick Mahomes in that game, playing it even more. He's going to put up points. Sammy Watkins is coming back this week, so that adds to his weapons. So Patrick Mahomes stacks with Hill and Watkins and Kelsey are probably the way to go, in my opinion. And then Tom Brady on the other side of that. Kansas City's defense, it's been pretty solid this year, but they haven't really played anyone like Tom Brady yet this year, and Brady's coming off a brutal performance on Monday Night Football. He's going to be out for vengeance, and I would not be surprised if they win this game. It's going to be not in prime time, but probably the game of the week, 4:30 game of the week. So this is going to be a really good game. So I definitely do like Tom Brady's stacks as well. He's got some great weapons. Antonio Brown's in a great spot. Chris Godwin is really cheap, and Mike Evans obviously as well. So, and if you want to throw in Gronk there as well, that's a good one as well. So Tom Brady does look very good. That's it. We're going to talk about the quarterbacks. Let's move on to the running backs on this slate. We're going to start with Salvon Ahmed or Myles Gaskin. So Myles Gaskin can come back this week. They haven't activated him off the IR this yet, and I mean, it is Friday, so at this point, I don't think he's going to come back. But in case he does come back, this is what I say about Salvon Ahmed is going to apply to Myles Gaskin, and I'm not going to want to play Ahmed. Anyway, so we'll go to whoever the Miami Dolphins starting running back is. They're going up against the Jets. They're favored in this game. The Jets allowed the 12th most points to opposing running backs so far this year. When you go look at the usage for Salvon Ahmed, he's averaging 13.33 carries per game in the games that Gaskin's out. And then, I mean, if you just do week 10 and week 11, he's gotten some good usage, averaging 2.33 targets in those games to 15.66 touches. So you're going to get a favored running back against the Jets, who's going to get 15 touches in this game, maybe can get to 20 if they're up by a lot for most of the game. I think that's a really good spot to attack. So he's really cheap, only $5,100 on Draftkings. I think he's a good value. So now you're going to go to the Cincinnati running backs. They're going up against the Giants. Giovanni Bernard's been in concussion protocol since Tuesday. I don't really think he's going to play because usually if a guy gets a concussion on Tuesday, he doesn't play on Sunday. So Samaje Perine is probably going to be the guy, but in case it is Giovanni Bernard, they're playing the Giants. It's a tougher matchup, so I'm not really too interested in him. He's not super cheap, but Samaje Perine is the flat minimum. He's $4,000 like we had Mike Davis a few weeks ago, and he's pretty much the only running back on a team. Like no Joe Mixon, no Giovanni Bernard, and Perine's been effective when he's been used this year, averaging 4.3 yards per carry. It's pretty solid. It's better than Bernard's 3.6. Even when Bernard's been in, he's gotten 2 inside to 5 carries. So he's getting usage around the end zone, in the red zone. So I think he's an interesting play at 4K. I'm definitely going to want to have a lot of him. The Giants' run defense has been good this year, but hasn't been that great where I'm just like, it's not like Tampa where I'm like, I don't really want to play running backs there. But I think Samaje Perine is a very good option here. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, you're going to be going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have allowed the 7th most points to opposing running backs. This game has a 49.5 game total, and the Browns are favored by a touchdown. When you go look at the usage, Nick Chubb only 4 inside to 5 carries, so Kareem Hunt's 5. When they get more towards the red zone, I mean, they've been using Kareem Hunt more than Nick Chubb, which honestly is a little surprising, but Nick Chubb's still getting more usage, averaging 19.2 carries per game to Kareem Hunt's only 14.2 overall touches. Chubb's averaging 20 per game, and Kareem Hunt's averaging 17.4. I just don't like the thing with Nick Chubb is I just don't like the fact that he's not getting usage in the red zone. That scares me a little bit. I do still think he's a good play, but just going against Jacksonville. But Kareem Hunt's only like 5,600. He's pretty cheap. And if he gets you 2 touchdowns, he's going to pay off huge. I mean, honestly, even 1 touchdown is going to be great, but 2 touchdowns going you a GPP. So I think Kareem Hunt is a very solid option this week. I like both of them, though. I'm going to play some Nick Chubb as well. Obviously, don't play them together. That's just a general rule that we have. So make sure to be on the lookout for that. James Robinson on the other side of the game is my favorite running back play of the week. Yeah, they've only allowed 25th most points opposing running backs, but Robinson's only 6,300. He has 21 red zone carries, 3 inside to 5 carries this year. Overall, he's averaging 21.3 touches per game. So you're getting a running back at 21 touches per game who gets usage in the passing game in a spot they're playing from behind against a defense that's good, but not that good. Or also not going to have Myles Garrett this week. So you're getting that, and he's only $6,300. Yeah, I'm going to love that. I'm sure he's going to be really popular this week, but if he's not, that's awesome. I'm going to get a ton of James Robinson for sure. Derrick Henry going up against the Indianapolis Colts. I think people are going to be scared of this one, but a big note for this matchup is DeForest Buckner is out for the Indianapolis Colts. That is their best run stopper. Big trade acquisition from the 49ers this summer. He's been one of the best defensive linemen in the league for the past 2 years. So that's a big loss for the Colts defense, and that's huge for Derrick Henry. The Colts have only allowed 27 most points to opposing wide receivers, but still, Derrick Henry, or this game total does have a 51 game total. We know Derrick Henry's going to get the usage in the red zone, the end zone. Not last time they played. When they played on Thursday night, the Titans had 2, 1 yard. They were on the goal line twice, and the backup running back ran in, and Jonnu Smith ran it in. So that was not fun for anyone who had Derrick Henry that night, including me. So he does still have 44 red zone carries and 13 inside to 5 carries this year. Overall, we're going to be looking at 25.1 touches on average per game, and he's coming off a 28 carry game last week against Baltimore, and that was a game they were playing from behind a lot too. So that just shows you that they still do want to get to him. I think he's going to be sneaky. I don't think a lot of people are going to play him because he did not do well against the Colts a few weeks ago, but you just get some luck with it. I mean, he's getting the majority, he's getting 95% of the inside of 5 carries. Just 2 of them that happened not to get were in that game. So Derrick Henry is still somebody that I think he's going to be sneaky. I don't think he's going to be played. I love that DeForest Buckner's out, so I do think he is an interesting option. Josh Jacobs is in this Las Vegas Raiders Falcons game, totals 54. Atlanta's actually had a pretty good run defense this year, only allowing the 28th most points to opposing running backs. But Josh Jacobs does have 37 red zone carries and 9 inside to 5 carries this year. He's getting the high leverage upside touches, averaging 19.9 carries per game, along with 3.1 carries per game to 23 touches per game. The thing with Josh Jacobs is if they get really far behind, which can happen against Atlanta, he's going to get phased out. But if they're ahead, he's going to be used a ton. So he's definitely only a tournament option for me, but I'm definitely going to get it. He's probably more of a boom-bust play, but I'm definitely going to have some exposure to him. He's just in a good spot. It's a high-total game, and if they are playing from ahead, he's going to be huge. Kalen Ballage going up against the Buffalo Bills. This line is a game total of 53. Now, Austin Eckler also could come back this week, but I don't think he is. I'm pretty much just going off the assumption he's not coming back. So, obviously, if Austin Eckler is back this week, we're not playing Kalen Ballage. The Bills have allowed the 13th most points to opposing running backs so far this year. In the last few weeks, without Eckler and Justin Jackson and Josh Kelly not really being relevant anymore, we've seen Kalen Ballage average 16.33 carries per game and overall 22.33 touches per game. He's pretty much been a bell cow, and he's still in the 5K range. Going up against Buffalo, people don't want to play him because he's Kalen Ballage. I get that. He's Kalen Ballage, but he is still definitely a play with that usage he's getting, and this is a high total game. So if Eckler's out, obviously, I think I'm going to definitely want some Kalen Ballage. Now, if Eckler is in, we got to make sure we find out what beat report's saying, if they're just going to split the carries or whatever, or if Eckler is going to be into a full down back role. I would assume they probably want to bring him back unless he was ready to assume that because it's not like they're really trying to make a huge playoff push right now. So if he is back, I think Austin Eckler is a very good play, but for now we're going to assume that Kalen Ballage is playing. David Montgomery's on Monday Night Football. Oops. We're not going to talk about him right there. Anyway, Dalvin Cook, or Sunday Night Football. I can't believe I put him on there. Oof. All right. Dalvin Cook going against Carolina Panthers. This game has a total of 51. The Panthers have allowed the 6th most points to opposing running backs. Dalvin Cook has been a usage monster. He's 9,500. Pretty much just play this guy. I mean, 28 red zone carries, 13 inside to 5 carries. Overall usage for Dalvin Cook, he's averaging 25.66 touches per game. And in the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks, 30, 22, 30, 27 carries. I mean, you're just using him an absolute ton, and now you're going to get the Panthers, who've been a horrible run defense all year long. He's a great cash play. I'm going to play him in tournaments too, but I do think it's definitely warranted to fade him because, I talked about how much I like Derrick Henry, and everyone's going to play Cook this week. Henry's $1,300 cheaper. Alvin Kamara is also cheaper, who we'll talk about second. There's guys that are cheaper that can allow you to get bigger stacks to get off of Dalvin Cook, but it's still Dalvin Cook. He's in a good spot. He's just really expensive. Todd Gurley going against the Vegas Raiders. Todd Gurley may not play, so this could actually be another minimum price running back, which is Brian Hill, who's going to be in a better matchup against Vegas. But the one thing I will say about this, if Todd Gurley is out, which it looks like he's not going to play, it does look like it is going to be Brian Hill. We've seen this before a year ago when Devontae Freeman was the lead back. When Gurley got out, they just went to a committee. It was Brian Hill, it was Ito Smith. I think those are the main two. I don't think it's going to be I think it's going to be like what we saw in Detroit on Thursday, where it was a split game between Kerryon Johnson and Adrian Peterson. I think that's what's going to happen in Atlanta if Gurley misses, so I wouldn't just load up on Brian Hill. In fact, if people are loading up on Brian Hill, I would not hate going to Ito Smith. But in the case we have those two, a few minimum price running backs, I would definitely prefer Samaje Perine because I am pretty sure he will have a lead back role. Anyway, this is a good matchup for Todd Gurley. Let's assume he plays. The Raiders have allowed the 4th most points to opposing running backs so far this year. Todd Gurley has 42 red zone carries and 13 inside of 5 carries, getting a lot of high leverage upside target or carries. Overall, when we go look at the usage, he is averaging 19.1 touches per game right now. And he's in the 5K range, so he has a pretty nice value, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be stacking up the passing game in this game, but this is going to be lower owned Todd Gurley in a good spot. I think I want to get there. But like I said, I don't really think he's playing, to be honest. It doesn't look like he's playing. He didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. I'm pretty sure right before I started recording this, I read a report that did not look like he was practicing today. So Todd Gurley is probably someone who's going to be out for me. Mike Davis, total of 51, going up against the Minnesota Vikings, $6,900 on Draftkings. Vikings have allowed 17th most points to opposing running backs so far this year. I don't know how much I'm interested in Mike Davis. I mean, he's $6,900. It's just a little bit expensive. He is averaging 18.9 touches per game, so pretty much 19 touches per game. He's just not effective. He's just really not that good of a running back, honestly. He started out the season really good, but in recent weeks, he hasn't been performing that well. I mean, even against Detroit last week, yeah, he had a touchdown, but for the most part, he didn't really have that great of a game. I just think he's a little bit too expensive for the talent of running back he is, and if he's going to be popular again like he was last week, I definitely think there's warrant of fading him. So just make sure to look on ownership for him. If no one's playing Mike Davis, I will get some, but if he's going to be popular, I'm probably just going to look to go another way. Alvin Kamara going against the Denver Broncos this week. This total is really small, 43.4. Nobody's going to play Alvin Kamara this week, and you don't really ever get a lot of low-owned Alvin Kamara. Taysom Hill at the quarterback was definitely a problem, though, last week. I mean, he had 13 carries on the ground, but he only had one target last week. So that was a little bit confusing to me. So I'm a little worried about that with him, with how Taysom Hill is really going to affect him. It is kind of a tough matchup against Denver, so this is definitely somewhere he's definitely a tournament-only play, and I wouldn't play a ton of him anyway. But, I mean, if nobody's going to play Alvin Kamara this week, like, I'm going to get some just because he's Alvin freaking Kamara. So, you just got to make sure to look how the ownership's going. If he's going to come in, like, sub 8%, I'm definitely going to get some. If he's going to come in higher, then I'll probably just go somewhere else. It is a tough matchup. I'm not really sure how his usage is going to continue to be with Taysom Hill in the lineup. And he's expensive, so be sure to look out for that. All right, let's go to the wide receivers now, where we are going to start out with Stephon Diggs for the Buffalo Bills going up against the LA Chargers. I already talked about how I liked Josh Allen this game. This total is 53 game total. When you go look at the targets, Stephon Diggs has 21 red zone targets this year, 6 end zone targets, so getting the high leverage targets that we like to see. Averaging 9.25 targets per game overall in the season. So great play for me. I love him in stacks. Pretty much just simple, like Stephon Diggs. Jamison Crowder's up next. Total is 44.5. Okay, we'll talk about Crowder and Mims. The two Jets receivers going against the Miami Dolphins. 44.5 game total. They're not going to be favored in this game. They're going to be playing from behind. Now, the past few weeks, Jamison Crowder's kind of not been involved. 2 targets in week 9, 3 in week 11. Then they had a bye in week 10. So that's a little nerve-wracking. Almost looks like Denzel Mims is just coming back. But the one thing I will say is Jamison Crowder gets more used when Sam Darnold's in. Joe Flacco's been in and I don't think likes to use the outside receivers or the slot receivers as much as Darnold does. But now it does look like Sam Darnold's going to play this week. And we know he loves to just pepper targets to Jamison Crowder. And Jamison Crowder's like 6K. So if we can get this again, 13, 10, 10, 13, that's like when Sam Darnold was playing. Yeah, I'm going to want to get there. I think that's definitely something I want to attack. I mean, just he's going to get those targets. He's cheaper than he should be. So definitely Jamison Crowder is someone I'm interested in. And I'm also interested in Denzel Mims. We've seen him get 8 targets in week 11, 8 targets in week 9. His last 2 games, we've seen him get 8 targets. He's $3,500. There are a few other cheap guys down there that are definitely interesting. And I can see, because I'm seeing a lot of Denzel Mims talk on Twitter this week. So I can definitely see him getting really popular, and I didn't really put any of them on the video, but KJ Hamler's also seeing that like type of target share in Denver, and Jakeem Grant's seeing some targets as well, and they're down in the 3K range. So like I mean, if Denzel Mims isn't going to be popular, I'm going to play him for sure. But if people are going to own him, I'm going to go off of him to like KJ Hamler or something, because I don't think the upside's as high, and I definitely don't like the fact that Darnold's coming back, who loves to throw to the slot. So, and Denzel Mims is a strictly outside wide receiver, so just be cautious of that. Cautious on the ownership. If no one's going to play him, though, again, like last week, I will play Denzel Mims. Michael Pittman Jr. is going to be a tournament-only option for me going up against the Tennessee Titans, who have allowed the 11th most points to opposing wide receivers this year. This game total is a 51. We've seen Michael Pittman have some good weeks. 2 weeks ago, really his breakout game was against Titans, and then last week had a long touchdown against Green Bay. Still only averaging 5 targets per game, though. That's kind of a little bit disappointing. I didn't really like that 3 targets. In last week, especially when they were like playing from behind for a lot of that game, like they had to come back against Green Bay, and he still only saw 3 targets. I don't like that as much, but I do think at 5K, not a lot of people are going to play him. He's in a good matchup in a high total game, and I think he's a very talented wide receiver. So I think Michael Pittman's definitely in play for me. DJ Chark's gonna be another. He's gonna be another GPP only wide receiver, but I do like DJ Chark this week. So look, the Browns allowed the 10th most points to opposing wide receivers this year, and it's not like Denzel Ward has been like shadowing this year. Like he's not been just shadowing one wide receiver, so I'm not really too worried about him shadowing DJ Chark. They're going to be playing from behind. Mike Glennon's going to be a quarterback this week, and he's, he's not good, but like at least he's somewhat accurate of a quarterback over his career. We look at DJ Chark averaging 7.33 targets per game this year. He's going to get used. He's not expensive. He's like 5,600 on DraftKings. He's in the 5K range, somewhere around there. No one's going to play him. Great tournament option, in my opinion. Probably not going to stack Jacksonville, but I do think DJ Chark is a one-off. Is going to be low-owned, and I mean, he has, high upside. A.J. Brown, they're going back up against the Colts, who had A.J. Brown a brutal game against the Colts on Thursday Night Football 2 weeks ago. But I think that's going to keep his ownership down. And in that game, A.J. Brown dropped a wide-open 70-yard touchdown pass, and then he also dropped another touchdown in the end zone. He had a bad game. And then he only ended up with the game with 4 targets. But I think that's because by the end of the game, Ryan Tannehill just didn't trust him and didn't want to throw him the ball anymore. They started throwing to Corey Davis, started throwing to Jonnu Smith. Ferkser. Like, they were throwing other guys because they just, if your receiver's in his own head and he's dropping the ball, they're just not going to throw it to him. But last week against Baltimore, A.J. Brown got it back. He got that big touchdown at the end of the game. He caught some passes. He looked like he got his groove back. So now I'm not saying A.J. Brown's about to break a 70-yard touchdown this week, but if he gets the usage he usually does against a defense that I think is a little bit suspect, I don't think they're as good as everyone gives them credit for. They haven't really played a lot of great offensive attacks. They didn't look fantastic against Green Bay last week, and that was the best offensive passing attack they've played all year. I don't think the Colts defense is as great as everyone wants to give them out to, and nobody's going to play A.J. Brown this week because of what happened last time. He's still averaging 7.375 targets per game. He has 7 touchdowns this year. Gets a ton of usage in the end zone, the red zone. 11 red zone targets, 4 end zone targets. He hasn't played every game this year either. So A.J. Brown is definitely someone I want to get some exposure to. Jerry Jeudy is going to be another tournament-only player going up against the New Orleans Saints. They should be playing from behind. Saints have allowed 12th most points opposing wide receivers this year. Marshawn Lattimore's been kind of bad, but even if he doesn't play, Marshawn Lattimore's been bad, but he may be out again, so got to kind of look at that, but I'm really not too worried about that matchup. Judy's averaging 7.7 targets per game, seeing 10, 14, and then 2 8s in the last 4 weeks. He's definitely become a big part of this offense who likes to throw the ball a lot. If Drew Lock could be an accurate quarterback, this guy would be like $2,000 more expensive. He's just always wide open, and Drew Lock just misses him because he's not good. But Jerry Jeudy is definitely someone I want to have some exposure to. He's definitely a play for me. I think he's a really good option in tournaments. I wouldn't play him in cash, though. Tyreek Hill, all right. I don't feel like I really have to say much about him. Just I already talked about Mahomes, so just play Tyreek Hill. He's got huge upside. Not going to play him in cash, but always a great tournament option. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are the Chargers wide receivers that I want to look at. We already talked about stacking Justin Herbert. These are two of the guys I definitely want to go to. Keenan Allen's going to be in the slot against Buffalo against Kevin Johnson, who's been horrible this year. So I love that. Mike Williams is going to be on the outside a lot against Trey White, who's been good, but he hasn't been what he was last year. And like I said earlier, it's a big size disadvantage for Trey White, big size advantage for Mike Williams. Keenan Allen has 17 red zone targets and 7 end zone targets. Williams has 14 red zone targets, 8 end zone targets. They're getting the high leverage targets. Keenan Allen, though, he's averaging 12.22 targets per game to Mike Williams' 5. That's not as much, but Mike Williams is definitely going to be the more high upside play. Keenan Allen's got a super high floor. Can't believe now Keenan Allen's the second most expensive wide receiver on Draftkings. He deserves it. He definitely deserves it. That guy's elite. I'll be the first one to say that I was never, I always thought Keenan Allen's good, but never thought he was elite. That guy's elite. He told us on Twitter over this year. No one believed him, but that guy's good. So, he had 19 targets last week. I don't think that happens again, but actually it could, because this is a game that's probably going to shoot out, so maybe he does get those targets, but Keenan Allen is definitely someone I like. I definitely like Mike Williams as well. They're definitely good tournament options. Allen Robinson, Devontae Adams play Sunday night. I guess I just decided to put Sunday night football players. I was interested in this. We're not going to talk about them in this video. Justin Jefferson's up next. We're assuming Adam Thielen's going to miss. Now, Adam Thielen may play. If Adam Thielen plays, I don't really care. I'm still interested in Justin Jefferson, but man, if Adam Thielen's out, this guy might be my favorite wide receiver playing the slate. They're playing Carolina Panthers, who have actually graded out as a pretty good secondary this year, but I don't believe it. I still don't think that secondary is good. Dante Jackson and Roswell Douglas, whichever one guards him, I don't like. Only averaging 6 targets per game right now, which isn't fantastic, and he isn't honestly getting the red zone, the end zone targets, but he's averaging, he has an 8 out of 13. That's one of the highest out here. Mike Williams is obviously going to be higher. Tyreek Hill is going to be higher. Jerry Jeudy is surprisingly higher, but it's still one of the highest 8 outs out here, and this guy's just been talented. He's just been so efficient with the ball this year. He has averaging 18.44 yards per route run. I think that is the second highest on this out of every receiver. Yeah, DJ Moore's only on one higher. He's averaging 3.37 points per touch, which it's tied for the most out of anybody. Only other one tied up there is Tyreek Hill. The dude's just been efficient when he gets the ball. Going against Carolina, the game set a 51 game total, and if Adam Thielen misses, he's their guy. Who else? They're not going to start all of a sudden throwing to Chad Beebe, I would assume. We're going to talk about Irv Smith and the tight ends, but I think Justin Jefferson becomes an absolute great play here if Adam Thielen's out. And if Adam Thielen's in, I'm still going to play him in tournaments. I don't really want to do Vikings stacks this week, but just one-offs or double stacks and a stack of in your lineup, I think that's fine. Julio and Ridley, both are questionable. I think Ridley should play. I'd be kind of surprised if he doesn't play. He's just dealing with the same injury that he was out the previous few weeks before, and then he played last week. So I'd be a little surprised if Calvin Ridley does not play. Julio, though, he may not play. That's going to be interesting. They're going against the Las Vegas Raiders, who allowed the 14th most points to opposing wide receivers so far this year. When you go look at the overall usage, Julio Jones, 14 red zone targets, 7 end zone targets, to Calvin Ridley's 21 red zone targets and 10 end zone targets, getting all the high upside usage. Julio averaging 8 targets per game, Calvin Ridley averaging 7.71 targets per game. Now, those are games when both of them are playing. Both are definitely effective in the passing game. If you're stacking Atlanta, I love them. Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore for Carolina. They're going against Minnesota, who's been a horrible defense this year, horrible secondary this year. They've allowed the fourth most points to opposing wide receivers. When you go look at the usage, Robbie Anderson has 17 red zone targets and 3 end zone targets. DJ Moore's 10 red zone targets to 5 end zone targets. Robbie Anderson, I feel like, has some sort of touchdown regression coming. Like, he does only have 3 end zone targets, so I'm not going to say it's like full touchdown regression because this guy only has 1 touchdown this year. But 17 red zone targets without a touchdown, like, I feel like that regression's got to hit at some point. I mean, it's not as high of a regression as, like, the end zone targets, obviously. He only has 3 of those, but, man, I feel like this guy's just got to get into the end zone at some point, and this would definitely be a team for it to happen. Like I was talking about, Minnesota guys, like, having the double stacks or whatever. Yeah, this is definitely another team I want to do that with. Like, I would love making a stack. Like, let's just, for hypothetically, let's say we're going to go Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis, and we're going to run that back with Kalen Ballage, and then I'm going to plug in Robbie Anderson and Justin Jefferson. I love that lineup. I think that's a great lineup. You have your full game stack, and then you have another stack within your lineup. I love that correlation. I think those guys all fit well together. Michael Thomas is probably going to be low-owned. Michael Thomas is finally coming off a game where we saw 12 targets from him, what we've seen last year. I think he's finally back, but no one's going to play him because Denver, I mean, it's just kind of a boring matchup. I mean, it's nothing great. They still have allowed the third most points opposing wide receivers this year, but it's just nothing that, like, everyone, it's not a high-scoring game. Like, you have all the receivers pricing around him: Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, who are some of the other ones? There's one other guy I'm just, like, blanking on right now. Oh, Ridley and Julio and Tyreek Hill. Like, all those guys are priced around Michael Thomas, and everyone would rather play them, but this could mean Michael Thomas can be low-owned, and, I mean, if Michael Thomas is back to getting that target share we saw him get a year ago, I want to get that. DeAndre Hopkins is DeAndre Hopkins. He's going to get Gilmore this week, but Stephon Gilmore hasn't been, like, shut down this year. He's been dealing with some injuries, but we know Stephon Gilmore, we know both these two are going to show up for this matchup because it's just, like, a superstar matchup. So we definitely want to get some exposure to Hopkins. I think he's definitely a fine option. All right, we're going to close this video out with the tight ends this week. We're going to start with Mike Gesicki going against the New York Jets. We've seen him get a lot more usage recently with Preston Williams going out and Tua stepping in. We knew in training camp that Tua really liked Mike Gesicki this year, and we knew last year when Preston Williams went down, Mike Gesicki got more usage. 4, 5, and 5 targets the last few weeks. He's got a high A-dot on targets as well with 12.72, which is the highest on the slate, so high upside targets, and he's getting red zone and end zone usage. So I definitely do like Mike Gesicki. I think he's a solid option. Trey Burton's really cheap, and he's getting usage going up against the Tennessee Titans. When you go get usage for him, averaging 4.5 targets per game and only 3,100, that's definitely interesting. I don't hate going there at all either. These are guys, if you're going to pay down. Noah Fant is averaging 6.44 targets, but he is playing the New Orleans Saints, which is kind of a tough matchup against tight ends this year. So I would worry a little bit there, but I still definitely do like the upside Noah Fant brings. I mean, he's just a super athlete. He's just really good. Like, you just get these tight ends every once in a while, just like they're really good. Like we see Kelsey and Waller, who we're about to talk about, who they're like absolute studs. Well, Noah Fant's one of those next ones up, who's just going to be an absolute stud in this league. So definitely someone I do like. Travis Kelce, like, okay, Kelsey and Waller are clear and cut top options, but like, you know, if you want to pay down for tight end, which I do sometimes, I'd sometimes like paying up, but there are definitely times I like to pay down. We'll look at these other guys, but like Waller and Kelsey, 9 targets per game for Kelsey, 8.4 for Waller. Just getting a ton of usage. You're getting usage in the red zone, getting usage in the end zone targets. Both have 6 end zone targets this year. We know they can both go for a ton of points, get you double touchdowns on a game. Waller's in a fantastic matchup. Kelsey's in a little bit of a tougher matchup, but he's just so good that I'm just really not too worried about it. Hunter Henry and Evan Ingram are also really good plays, averaging 6 targets per game. Henry's in that great Buffalo Bills game, although I will say the Bills have been pretty solid against tight ends. I mean, Matt Milano is just one of the best cover linebackers in the league, but still not really too worried about that. Evan Ingram getting the usage, but doesn't really bring you a ton of upside. Irv Smith's really cheap. He's 3,000 on DraftKings. He's either 31 or 3,000 on DraftKings. He's really cheap, and if Adam Thielen misses, I mean, I kind of think Irv Smith might become the number 2 receiver on his team. I think they like him more than Kyle Rudolph at this point, so Only averaging 2.33 targets per game. So, I mean, yeah, that's not great, but he's going to get usage in the red zone when he gets the targets, and he's just good. Like, this is a guy I've held a lot in dynasty leagues. I think is going to be a really good tight end once they free him in this offense. But Irv Smith, I mean, he's really cheap and he could pay off. Hayden Hurst is just another guy to pair with Matt Ryan. Gronkowski's another guy to pair with Tom Brady. Gerald Everett and Jordan Reed are both really cheap. I definitely prefer Jordan Reed. We saw earlier this year George Kittle absolutely torch the Rams, which is, I mean, the tight end in San Francisco. Now you have Jordan Reed there, who's pretty much going to be the offense. Brandon Ayuk may not play. Deebo Samuel may not play. Be on the lookout for those two. If they don't play, I think Jordan Reed is just a fantastic option at tight end. But I think that's really all I got to say on this. I hope you guys enjoyed this a lot. Got a lot of good information out of it. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to this channel. And I hope you guys have a great weekend and make some money.